Assalamu alaikum everybody, I pray that you guys are very, very well and in the best of health. For those of you who don't know yet, this is your new Arabic teacher, and my name's Sam. So this is a little video, just a very quick one inshallah. Well, we'll see how it goes. It won't be a big marathon one like the live Q&As are. But it's essentially in response to a question. I got a question from one of the students on the Arabic in 60 Steps program earlier about lesson 9. And lesson 9 in my program is on what we call hollow verbs. Or those of a classical background will know them as ajwaf verbs. Al-fi'l al-ajwaf. So what it means for a verb to be hollow, what it means is that essentially when you quote the verb, it'll have an alif in the middle. That's sort of the simplified version of it. And that's all that really matters at this stage in the program. So I said to this brother, I said, look, we'll just do a little talk through over the verb qala. And I think it'll work really nicely as well because it's because as well the verb qala is one of the words that we're covering in the series that I'm doing on Instagram for the most used words in the Quran. For those of you who don't know, go to my Instagram, or some of you might be watching this on IGTV anyway, but go over to my Instagram and I'm putting up an image every single day in order of like the most used word in the Quran all the way down to like the least used words in the Quran, and we'll probably go over like 70% of the vocab all the way up to Ramadan. So anyways, and qala would definitely be one of them. Qala is the 6th most used word in the entire Quran. It is by far the most used verb in the Quran, occurring about 1,800 or 1,618 times or something like that, or it might be more. And it's by far the most used verb in the Quran as well. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity for us to benefit from that, and then also hopefully fill in some gaps for any students who have any who are struggling at all with that lesson. So everything up until lesson 9 that you've done so far are all what we call strong verbs, meaning that I'll have 3 consonants. You'll have like kataba, or abada, or shariha, or kabura, or any of those kinds of verbs, right? Where we have like 3 what we call strong letters, consonant, consonant, consonant. And this is the first time that we've actually met a verb with a vowel in the middle, that we meet the alif in the middle, and it's preparing you for next lesson, which is on kana. It's deliberately preparing you for that. So the verb that we'll talk about, the verb qala, the first thing that I tell you is that this alif in the middle is actually not its root letter. The alif is not the root letter. The alif is sort of a disguise for what is actually the root letter, and that sort of materializes when you conjugate it into the present tense and you see the noun of it. So for example, if we take the verb qala, when it goes into the present tense, it's yaqulu. Not all verbs behave like that. There are a lot of verbs that would go like qala yaqilu. That's also a verb in Arabic, by the way. And there's not really a rule for that. Just by looking at a hollow verb, you can't necessarily tell whether it's one that alif is a disguise for a waw, or that alif is a disguise for a ya. Or there are some cases where the alif just remains an alif in the present tense, right? There are very few verbs that do that, but there are some. Like the verb nama, to sleep. Nama yanamu is one of the only examples for that. But so that's the first thing to bear in mind, and that also is why the noun of the verb qala is qawl. You see there's a waw in the middle, qawlun. And then, like I deliberately tried to do that in the workbooks. I deliberately give the vocab as past tense, present tense, masdar, or verbal noun, right? I deliberately tried to do that because once you've got the past tense and the present tense, it's quite easy to conjugate downwards. It's quite easy to go like qala, qalat, and then on the other side go like yaqulu, taqulu, taqulu, taqulina, and aqulu. But it's only in the past tense where we have an issue here when we go into the other persons. Okay, so qala makes sense, qalat behaves like any of the verb we've done so far. But then when we go into the second and first persons, we're saying you said and I said in the past tense. We need to shorten this thing in the middle, but because we're having a sukoon on the end now, right? And Arabic doesn't really want you to say qalta or qalti and qaltu. So what it does instead is it just makes it qulta, qulti, and qultu. Yeah, that's why we get that. To demonstrate with an example of a verb, which the alif in the middle isn't a disguise for a waw, because it's most correct to say that the root letters of qala are qaf, waw, and lam. Right, that's most correct. We'll have a verb like ba'a. The verb ba'a. Its root letters are not ba, alif, and ayn. Alif cannot be a root letter. Alif in itself cannot be a root letter. Hamza can be, but alif in itself cannot be. So with ba'a, its present tense is yabiru, and then the noun is bayr, So it's ba'a yabiru. And then we have ba'at in the past tense. Ba'at. And then rather than like bu'ta, we have bi'ta. Yeah? Right. So the verbs that would have a waw in the middle, that waw ends up becoming a dhamma in qulta, you said. Qulti, you said, feminine. And then qultu, I said. Okay. So with ba'a, it'd be bi'ta, you sold. Bi'ti, you sold, feminine. And then bi'tu, I sold. Nice. So that's the crux of what we learn in that lesson. And then there's also another couple of additions. So we've already learnt about doing the active participle and the passive participle of a word, right? And some of the previous lessons will have done the fa'il and the maf'ul, right? We'll have already done those patterns. So obviously these patterns require a fa, an ayn, and a lam letter, right? Like, but in a hollow verb we don't have that, right? We don't have an ayn, strong ayn letter. We have a weak ayn letter, right? We have an elif, right, in there. So when we come to the verb fa'il, what we actually do is, we replace that weak letter in the middle just with a hamza. So we end up with qala becomes qa'il, yeah? Qala, qa'ilun, just like kataba would become katibun, right? That's how we do the fa'il, we put a hamza in there. Some other examples, a seller is a ba'i', or a visitor, from the verb zara. Zara yazuru is a za'ir, yeah? A za'ir is a visitor. So that's how we do the fa'il, right? That's how we do the fa'il. The way that we do the maf'ul is, so there are two ways that we see the grammar books talk about it. One is that if it's a kind of hollow verb, that the alif in the middle is a disguise for a waw, you'll end up just getting rid of an ayn letter, and it's like, so qala would become maqul. A lot of people expect you to put a hamza in the middle because that's what you do with the fa'il, and end up with something like maq'ul. Yeah, but but they don't do that. You don't put a hamza in the middle. You just ignore the fact that there is even a middle letter, right? There is even an ayn letter. So you just say, yeah, that's it. Yeah, maq'ul, and then most of the time I've actually seen that applied for any hollow verb, right? Regardless of whether that hamza, when the alif in the middle, is a disguise for a waw or a ya or an alif itself. So ba'a would just become mabur, like a sold thing would be mabur. A visited thing, would become mazur, right? But I've also seen in the grammar books quoted that verbs where the alif is a disguise for a ya, like ba'a yabi'u, it's actually mabir rather than mabur, right? Like that waw that we have in the maf'ulun pattern actually becomes a ya itself. The actual pattern itself changes, which is quite interesting. It's quite rare for that to happen, generally throughout Arabic, for these kind of solid kind of patterns that we use as a rule to change like that. But I've seen both. Yeah, I think I teach in the book that it's just that ba'a, the passive is mabur, and then it's qala, maqul. That's how the passive participle works. Good. So to bring it back to the verb qala a little bit though, because there are a few other sort of grammar things to know about the verb qala. One is that I did mention earlier that qala yaqulu is the normal verb to say something that we encounter often, and that is the most common verb in the Quran. But the verb qala also has qala yaqilu, so it has actually both conjugations, but it doesn't mean to say anymore when you do that, right? It doesn't mean to say anymore. What it means then is to sleep, or specifically have a siesta, like a sleep in the afternoon. In fact, there's times in the Quran when Allah uses the word qa'il to mean a speaker. قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ لَا تَقْتُلُوا Yusuf. A sayer from among them said, don't kill Yusuf. But then there's also times when Allah will use the term قَائِلُونَ, for example, وَهُمْ قَائِلُونَ, and to mean they were sleeping, right? Yeah, so it's the same active, it's the same fa'il for either of those meanings. Yeah, cool. So that verb itself actually has two different ways of conjugating it in the present. Another thing to mention about the verb qala, this is a little bit further on than what we've done so far in the program, but so you can kind of just be absorbing what I'm saying now and just accepting it. You don't need to sort of fully understand it yet, just kind of be observing it and understanding that it's just a preparation for your later learning rather than something you need to have a full 100% grasp on now. So normally if we're saying a verb, if we're using a verb like I want, and we often say I want to, or I want that, something, right? And we typically do this in Arabic by using an or anna. So for example, if we'd say something like, I want to go, أريد أن أذهب. Right? That's what we do. Or if we'd say, I want, I don't know, if you're gonna use a noun afterwards, you say something like أريد أن الرجل. I want that the man does something, right? I want that the man does something. But قال is an exception to this. قال, you don't say قال أن. He said that. You know, for example, you wouldn't say, if you were saying something like the man said that the man is strong or something like that. You wouldn't say قال أن الرجل قوي. You wouldn't say that. You'd say قال إن. You always use inna and in instead of anna and an. That's just something unique about the verb قال. That's just yeah. That's just something unique about the verb قال, that you don't use an or anna after it. You use in or inna. So that's just a very brief walkthrough. Apologies if it's been a little bit clumsy and a bit bumbling. I did tell the students today that I'm not in the classroom or anything today. I'm in the virtual classroom. I'm literally, as you can tell, I'm in my car. Right, I'm actually in London at the moment. I'm in Highgate at the moment. Came to visit the in-laws and stuff. I managed to get out to my car for a minute just to help out one of the students and try to offer something of value to you guys, inshallah. Yeah, so I hope it was helpful. Obviously, I'll stick this on YouTube. I'll stick this on IGTV. Yeah, little call to action for the end. Those of you guys who are not following me on Instagram, please go over and do so. And if you're interested in coming on the journey with us, learning the most used and most regularly occurring words in the Quran all the way up to Ramadan, then come along and join in on that series. I've put a little gallery of those images, of those words, of those flashcards in my highlights. So you can go over and check that out, inshallah, on Instagram. See you guys over there. Take it easy and have a really nice weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.